Hey folks, welcome to Cyber Security News Now. I am Vernon Neal Reed, and I have been reading an article and I thought it was very interesting, and it's something I wanted to share with you all. So you get information not just from me or from another IT consultant or etc. You get to hear, some of the information that the FBI is sharing as well. So we're going to read through this article here together. All right, I'm back. I got it set up. So Texas, the rest of the U.S. experiencing more cyber attacks. And it seems that this is coming from the FBI. We know this is coming from the FBI. A series of cyber attacks across Texas are part of a growing statewide and national trend of increasingly sophisticated groups working through computers to steal money and information, according to officials in the FBI. My son is going off. Give me 1 second to let me lower his voice. I don't want to edit this video. Going on. All right, then here. A series of cyber attacks across... Okay, are you following? There we go. A series of cyber attacks across Texas, including some in the Houston region, are part of a growing statewide and national trend of increasingly sophisticated groups working through computers to steal money and information, according to officials in the FBI. In 2022, for instance, the FBI received more than 21,800 complaints of a cyber attack called business email compromise scheme, totaling around 2.7 billion. Yeah, that's 2.7 billion in reported losses, said Connor Hagan, a spokesperson for the FBI's office in Houston. Now, of that total, according to around 1,900 were in Texas, with about 260 million in losses. Now, 260 million alone in losses for Texas. That's an increase from about 1,600 victims in Texas as recent as 2020, according to the FBI. So, all right. So basically what FBI is saying, back in 2020, there were about 1,600 victims. In 2022, there are about 1,900 victims, an increase from about 1,600 victims. And out of this big pool of 2.7 billion in reported losses, 260 million in Texas alone. Now, I'm not sure, maybe I can find that a report that would tell me exactly per state what the amount of losses are, but it does single out Texas at this time. Moving on. The fraudsters have become more sophisticated, Hagan said. And because they're continuing to evolve, we're seeing new things each day. Now, this, to me, I will circle again, because I think this is, it needs to be said, and it needs to be said. So, it's not just, and I think I had an article recently, we were talking about this. It's not just one thing that you can do. It's not just one silver bullet, right? Cybersecurity is really a comprehensive approach, and there are a lot of different things that you can put in place to ensure that you are staying safe, that you're staying secure. It's not just one thing. It could be patching. It could be encrypting your data. It includes backups. It includes multi-factor authentication and a whole host of other things. It includes putting an incident response plan in place. And one of the reasons we have to do all of these is because, just as it's stated here, the attacks are continuing to evolve, right? They're seeing new things each day. And so the goal here is not just to look for what is the one or two things that I can do. I know we do have like the top 10 lists of here's top 10 things that you can start with. However, the goal is to have a comprehensive plan in place so that no matter what is occurring, even if you are breached, you can recover from that breach better. Even if you are breached, maybe the damage that occurs is not as deep or as hard, because now you're more prepared. And so anyway, I just thought that this was very interesting, and it needs to be told even more. The threats are continuing to evolve, and you're seeing new things each day. All right, continuing on. The FBI tips comprise just one type of cyber attack, Hogan said. One type of attack. What could that be? What is it? This guy right here. Ransomware attacks accounted for another 2,300 complaints, totaling more than, sorry if you don't see this, let me move this out. Anyway, that says 34.4 million in losses, basically due to ransomware attacks. Texas ranked third in the number of total victims of internet crimes and fourth in the reported losses from those schemes, according to the FBI's 2022 Internet Crimes Report. Hagan pointed to the recent case of Michael Knighton as an example of what some new cyber attacks look like. Knighton is a U.S. citizen who was living in Brazil, who was extradited in June 2022 and later pleaded guilty to wire fraud in connection with a business email scheme. Knighton would send fraudulent emails requesting changes in payment information using company vendors, officials said, but the new accounts weren't the vendors' actual banks. The scheme involved several companies in Houston, such as Banu Oil and Gas Company. Knighton has not yet been sentenced, officials said. Continuing on, several other Texas-based institutions have been affected by ransomware attacks in recent months. Several cyber criminals use malware software to prevent institutions from accessing files on their computers, which they can then use to demand a ransom or auction off to the highest bidder. So another reason why we say have your files encrypted, make sure you're doing some backups. Why? Because what they're using here is malware to get into your, so that once it gets into your environment and it attaches itself to the data, now it can say, hey, look, we got your data locked up. And so if you want this data back, because we have the malware that's locked it up, provide us some money, that's ransom, or we're going to send this information out to the public or to the dark web and get people to auction off this information. We can actually sell this information. However, if you do encrypt this data, right, that data is now not as useful to the attackers. Why? Because it's encrypted. And so they can't, that information can't be viewed. They don't really know what's in that information. So they'll just be selling information that is garbled. The other reason why we talk about, backups, so that if you are breached, you'll be able to roll back to a good backup. And therefore you won't be losing as much data if you are indeed breached and this type of attack does occur in your environment. So these are some of the things that we think about when we kind of balance what are some of the things that we need to put in place to ensure that you have a strong security posture. Stephen F. Austin University, for instance, was hit by a ransomware attack from a group called Rhizida, according to the, I'm not sure what that is, Daily Sentinel. The same group later claimed responsibility for stealing personal data from Lumberton ISD, according to the Beaumont Enterprise. Some part of the uptick in cyber crimes in Texas is just because of the growth of technology in recent years, Hagan said. But cyber criminals have also tended towards the schemes because they are relatively easy to execute and profitable. Many of those committing them tend to live overseas, such as Knighton in Brazil, which makes prosecuting them harder. Federal investigators, however, have worked improved in recent years. I guess they've made some improvements in recent years at freezing assets before criminals can access them. An FBI asset recovery team set up in 2018 had a 73% success rate in 2,800 investigations in 2022, freezing about $433 million in assets. All right. So, and this is just saying, hey, the FBI is seeking to do what they can do so that if they can freeze the attackers' assets, this might somehow hopefully deter them. I'm not sure if it will, but it's good that at least they're looking for different ways that they can also counter the attacks that are occurring. Bottom line, I'm sharing this with you. Actually, let me go back to full screen. All right, so bottom line, I'm sharing this with you just so that we continue to be aware. Again, you hear me say, stay informed, stay secure. I wanted to share this article because now you're not just hearing it from me, you're actually hearing from the FBI themselves, what they're hearing, what they're seeing that's going on. So bottom line, as we've been saying, there's more and more cyber attacks occurring, not just in your state, but across America. The attackers are using, different types of tactics in order to get to your data, in order to break in. And a big one that they're using is ransomware attacks, because at the end of the day, it's about a financial gain for them, right? They're trying to lock your data up and then ransom it back to you, or then sell it on the dark web. Anyway, if you have any questions about this or any of the videos that I put out, I would love to hear from you. This is Vernon Neal Reed, and this is Cybersecurity News Now. Take care.